I'm on a mission to recreate every Apex Legends character as a LEGO minifigure. So far I've done Lifeline, Octane, Bloodhound, Ash, and Watson. And in the last video, the bastard wheel decided that the next character to do is Revenant. Now, I want to temper expectations from the get-go. First of all, I'm sick, so that's why my voice sounds weird. And also, Revenant is one of 3 or 4 characters in the game that I really had no clue how to go about, given their unique non-human shape. And so I humbly request right off the bat that you go easy on me. This is probably going to be the worst figure that I make in this series. The first and most obvious problem is every part of him aside from his head. He has a super skeletal body, but it's still thick enough in places that you might be able to get away with using a regular minifigure part. And he also has super thin arms and legs that regular minifigure parts wouldn't really work for. There was a lot to consider, so I figured the best thing to do was just hop into Mecabricks and play around with whatever parts are available to me. I played around with as many accessories as I could. I even tested them with a regular minifigure just to see what it looked like. I found that it kind of just looked like a pirate or something, so I settled on using the skeleton parts. After I finished everything to do with this figure, I got this comment recommending I use the Magna Guard torso, which is a great suggestion, but the main reason I wouldn't go with this was because the legs would have to be the droid legs because of its attachment point at the waist, which would badly hinder my ability to pose this figure in the end. So that's why I ended up choosing this skeleton torso for him in the end, and why I'm probably not going to go back and change it. Overall, surprisingly, this ended up not being nearly as complex as the likes of Bloodhound and their accessories, so I actually arrived at the initial solution fairly quickly. I then started with what I thought would be the only detailing using UV maps, which was the face print. I used Luminara's face as a base, just because I use her as a coloured eyes reference, and also she kind of has a half frown, which I could work from. There isn't a lot to say about the face really. I was concerned about how much detail to include with regards to the 3D contours of his skull face thing, but ultimately I decided to include a good amount of it as a solid line as opposed to a different colour, because it forms this brow ridge, which I think is a big part of his expression. Then I turned my attention to the skull he's holding. Now this is a bit tricky because the mask in the reference looks like it's supposed to be a replacement face for him or something. I decided the best thing to do would be to just load up a second Mechafig headpiece and print a separate face print on it, using the main face print as a starting point. It was at this stage that the next biffed part of this minifigure came into play, and that is that technology failed me again and Shadowplay decided it just didn't want to record Photoshop for whatever reason. I've had this problem before, but I forgot how I fixed it, so I uninstalled and reinstalled GeForce Experience, and that didn't work. I also restarted my PC and everything, and it just wasn't working, and I was just sick of it. I've lost so much footage from Shadowplay just randomly deciding to stop midway through these time lapses, a lot of the time without even telling me. So I decided, fuck it, I'll just download OBS and that'll probably work. But I've never used OBS before, so I didn't set the capture settings properly, so the rest of this video is going to be a little zoomed in, so sorry about that. I hope you still get the gist of what I was doing though. I posed the figure as much as I possibly could for the render. Then like 90% of the work of this figure was just me going over it and detailing it in Photoshop. There was a balance to strike here with regards to his printing, and I don't think I hit it if I'm honest. The problem was with his arms and legs. I didn't want to leave them completely unprinted because the contrast in detail compared to the rest of the figures might make it stand out and look weird in the group photo. But LEGO have never printed on these pieces in this way before, and I can confidently say that they never will, if it's even possible at all. I do think the detail on the hat, bandana and chest piece is fine and doable, but what I did with everything below that, to quote a wise man, I may have gone too far in a few places. I will say though that I was really happy with how the cloth piece turned out for him. I've never used textiles on a figure before, so it was nice to realise I could manipulate it as handily as any other part. And that was that really. I ended up with 2 versions, one with limb printing and one without. I'm very curious which you'd prefer because I'm still super torn on it. Neither solution is perfect, but I could only work with the pieces I had. For now, I picked the more detailed version, and here it is in the group picture. I'm honestly not too happy with how this one turned out. I do stand by the decisions I made for him, and I think it's as good as I could have gotten it, but it's just not as recognizable or good looking as the rest of the figures. Apologies to any Revenant main watching, I really tried my best here. And now the wheel decides who's next. Honestly, I think the only character who'd be worse to put together would be Pathfinder, so as long as it's not him, it's an improvement. Vantage. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think. I'm not too familiar.